Hello and welcome on in. Welcome to episode 3 of Soul Wilds. I'm Kate.
And I am Katie.
And it's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good podcast. What are we discussing today, Katie? Tell the
We got
people.
we got a lot of things on our agenda today. So we'll see. We may have
Hmm.
to split into two, but we're talking about energy as a whole. We're just touching on a few important things that has been a part of our journey and understanding our journey
Hmm.
and what we're doing and what we're working with and how we're working with it and all the other stuff. So energy as a whole is sort of where we're going to start this time.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting and chock full of information.
Yeah,
So, Katie,
we
you're gonna
both
kick us off. Yeah, we both got lots to say. Buckle in, partner. But
have.
sorry, I've been silly.
Oh my God, you're
Katie,
being
you
mean
do.
today. What is happening?
I know the roles have reversed. I've even if one day if we do in fact post the webcast videos, I even have similar headphones on that Katie does. So
Yeah.
I'm taking my inspo from her. So, but I think don't you have a nice little card that
Yes, as you
you're gonna
can
pick for
see if you're
us?
watching, I have gratitude cards today. It's not like tarot. This is probably more something you would find if you did like a meditation, yoga class, or sound therapy, where the instructor includes these types of things. Sometimes they do, where they give you sort of an intention or something to help guide you.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's at the end, so it's not really to guide the work, but to guide you after. So
Yeah,
I figured I would pull from my gratitude card deck to start out our energy work today.
I love
Um,
that.
Gratitude is a big part of our attitudes and how our energy is put out into the world. So I'm going to draw now, and it's going to be for the collective. What
Yes,
message of gratitude can we share with all of you listeners as a whole? So let's see what happens.
I'm excited.
It's a process. For those who are listening, it might be quiet for a minute
Yeah.
because
She's running her hand over her cards just to feel, right? To feel which one
yeah.
is appropriate.
So it's similar to
Oh.
tarot for some of us witches, where I say witch. I don't know if I'm a real witch, but
Some of us practitioners.
I'm a real witch.
I'm a real boy.
But everyone pulls differently. Sometimes they pull from the top of the deck after
Yeah,
shuffling, if it falls
that's what
out,
I
things
do.
like that.
Hmm.
I have sensations in my fingers when I go to pull
Mm.
cards.
We're gonna
Sometimes
talk about that today too.
yeah, sometimes it's like warmth, sometimes it's tingling, and sometimes it legit feels like there's a string at the end of my finger
Oh,
attached to that card. If it's like a really strong, like this is the one.
that's it.
Yeah,
She's
and
there.
it's different every time I read. So
Oh my God, I love that for
thanks. So in
you.
my gratitude card deck, it is called Gratitude Inspirational Card Deck and Guidebook. I love this set. It comes with the cards, but you can also buy the journal. I think I even might have gotten it at Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble's
Uh,
honestly the shiz for
yep,
some of
not
this stuff.
advertising for them at all,
Yeah.
but I am a
Depending
huge
where you are. In
yeah.
Pennsylvania, they can be a little slim. That's where I live. So
Yeah.
they're very much depending towards like the city. They have way more stuff.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
and
anyway,
there's not as many anymore as there used to be, but
mm-mm.
so the card I ended up pulling today, is reflection.
Mhm.
There's reflection cards, inspiration cards, and affirmation cards.
I
Reflection.
love that.
Looking back, what inner compass has directed you through your life, and what does it have to teach you? Where is your true north? Remember treading water in the center of the still night sea, your toes pointing again and again down, down into the black depths. That's just, they like to put little quotes in there to help you think deeper about reflecting. So, finding your true north, finding your direction. That's
I
what we're
love
here
that.
for, to help you in
That
your
is
direction.
creepy. Can I tell you why that's a little crazy to me?
Yeah.
Because the reason I named my practice guiding point, I didn't necessarily want like it's still on the spectrum of True North. It still has like the spirit of what True North means. I just didn't want to call it True North. And I took that from, if anyone knows about astrology, the North Node placement, because North Node is your true north. It is your guiding star. It is your guiding point or North Star. So
Mm.
I'm like, ooh, that is really cool that you happen to pick that card.
Maybe this was for you and not the listeners.
Maybe. I think it is for everyone. I think
Yeah.
everyone can take something from that.
I've
You were
not
so
pulled
right.
for a large group before, especially people I have no idea who they are. So that was
Oh, you did
a
great.
good time. So yeah,
You did
um,
awesome.
really excited about that, and definitely love
Yeah.
this set. So
We
when
both
if
hope
you
to
post a
now
video,
we
you can see it.
I hope we both do this more often. I'm excited now. I think we should do card pulls.
Yeah,
We'll
I just
set our
thought it would be a good
intentions.
way to start. Yeah.
I love that.
Which kind of leads me into our intro of talking a little bit more about setting these types of intentions. There's a lot of ways to think about it. There's, again, like most things that Kate and I talk about, there's no right, there's no wrong. But these are sort of guiding points to to how you can start to think about your life and how you live your life and how you can make changes to what you're practicing or saying and doing and things like that to more align with your true north. So, short term intentions and long term intentions is kind of how I separated it in thought. More of our short term intentions would be more of our day to day. How are you waking up and starting your day? How are you ending your day? Things like that. Now, I am guilty. I do not do this practice daily. I should, and I would like to, but to be
Hmm.
realistic with yourself, if you set really stringent goals on following this new
Yeah,
routine, you're gonna have negative thoughts about yourself for not doing it, right? So you gotta just take it in strides and do what you can when you can at first until you're more comfortable with it, or find something that you look forward to doing. So for
exactly.
setting daily intentions, look at your morning routine. Get up, get moving, stretch, nourish your body, whether that is breakfast, or if you're someone like me who doesn't really eat breakfast, um, doing like a shake or water, something to nourish your body, some nuts, seeds, things like that. Uh,
Hmm.
get some sunshine, sit by a window, sit on a porch, go for a short walk, meditate and set your intentions. You don't have to meditate, but if it's something that you'd like to try and or are doing, doing that part of your daily routine, morning or evening. More
Yes.
long-term intentions would be things like I think setting gratitude intentions of specifically, not kind of like how I did it. Doesn't have to be reflection, inspiration, or affirmation, but more of what am I grateful for in my life. And it can be tangible things. It cannot. It could be as simple as I'm grateful I woke up today. Like for me, a lot of my repetitive gratitude goes to I'm so grateful to have my cat. He has been with me through thick and thin of my life, and he's 10 now, and I cannot imagine where life will be without him, but I'm super grateful for having him. So I look at
Mm.
I'm grateful to have water. I'm like a fish. I love to drink water. So I don't drink it as much as I should, but I love it and I'm glad it's here. I'm grateful that we have access to water. I'm grateful to have a roof over my head and to be able to provide for myself. So those are just some examples.
No, that's
Journaling,
beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah.
Journaling is another way to set long-term intentions. And it's something that was a huge part of my entire journey from the day I started. Like looking back at the journal, I was just reading it yesterday, and I'm like, man. And even today, I said I need to go back and like actually read this because I got some really cool stuff in there from many many years ago that I'm like, wow,
Hmm.
that aligns to what's going on now, or that was pretty enlightened. But and journaling doesn't mean like, dear diary, today I met a boy or whatever, it can just be, and it can if you want, but for me it was more of planning. What are some goals that I have in my life that I want to meet, or what are a list of things that I know I enjoy, or food that I like, just things about myself. As I was opening up and getting to know myself more and more, I was journaling these things. I had a dream and it had this and that in it, and I liked this or didn't like that, and
Mm.
that kind of cards, So long-term intentions you can set with cards like I did with the gratitude cards. You can use cards to help guide you to create more long-term goals. And breath work. Breath work is a really good long-term practice to have. It helps calm your nerves in times of high stress or crisis.
Mm.
We have a lot going on in our lives in today's world.
Yes, we do.
Everyone. We all have a lot going on. So slowing down a little bit. And those are just, again, some pointers that have helped me, but by no means are these like these are what you have to do, right?
Hmm.
So then I start thinking about like what actually shifts our energy. So we know how to set intentions now. We know some ideas of things we can start trying to have better routines for short term and long term goals and intentions. But these things shift all the time, like injury, mental health, attitude day to day, how you wake up in the morning, what you wake up to in the morning, all of those things shift our attitude and shift our energy. So there's a
Hmm.
few quotes that I wanted to share. One of them is, every day should elevate us a little. That alone in this quote was profound to me, because if you wake up and you have a, lack of better word, mediocre day and nothing has changed from yesterday, and you keep doing that, you have the power to make those changes, to work on elevating yourself in some way. Some people are comfortable with that. If you're in a state of comfort and or you can't really handle a lot of change in your life at the moment, then that's where you need to be, and working on other things like breath work and setting intentions and things are kind of where you need to be. But so every day should elevate us a little, broaden our attitudes, reduce our selfishness, and make us better masters over our own body, senses, and mind. This is a quote I recently got from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's written by Sri Swami, I might butcher this,
That
Satchidananda.
sounds bad.
So, yeah, it's one of the books we're reading for my yoga teacher training. So,
Very cool.
I found that quote to be super meaningful. I wanted to share that since we're talking a lot about energy.
Hmm.
Um, when our energy, here's another quote. When our energy is low, the world is harder. When our energy is high, the world is easier. And I feel like this is so relatable. If we're constantly in a state of low energy, we're not nourishing our bodies, we're not giving ourselves space and time, then we're finding ourselves constantly fighting hard battles throughout the day. And it's harder. I notice it more. My sleeve catches on the door. I drop something. I spill coffee on my pants. I slammed my finger in the door. My cat pooped on the carpet. All of those things start happening, but I'm much more aware of them and much more annoyed than on a regular day because my energy is low. I'm not caring for myself.
Hmm.
It is the mind that frees us or enslaves us. I love this quote. It's something I wrote in my journal many years ago. It's from one of the books I was reading at the time. And it's true. We put a lot of weight on what other people are doing and saying and thinking, and not enough on where our mind state is. So when we do these long-term and short-term intention setting and taking care of ourselves, we actually have the power to make those positive, better changes in our everyday. And I think of this quote in addition to that one. I think they kind of go hand in hand. It's in one of the songs written by the Eagles. And it's, so oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains and we never even know that we have the key.
Mm.
Like,
Hmm.
so I was in an abusive relationship when I was younger, when I was a teenager. And my stepmom shared this quote with me.
Mm.
And it was super meaningful to me at the time. But this quote specifically has been so meaningful to my life in lots of different ways since she told me it. Because I never really listened to the Eagles. It wasn't really my genre, right?
Mm.
But I really found that quote was super, super relatable for me across a lot of different things. So being mindful that you're the one that has the key to make the changes, or to step through the door, or not to step through
Yes.
the door.
Yep. You're the only one with that key.
Yeah, which I already said the last quote. This is the last quote for right now. Choose to experience, not endure. Choose to
I
experience,
like that.
not endure.
Yeah. Sometimes we can get caught up in the struggle depending how we were raised and what our parents thought about struggling and success.
Mhm.
And we make it, sometimes we do make it a little bit harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. And when you go through life and trauma, you have to work through those things. You can't just move on. You can't.
Yes.
And
No.
I almost get irritated in some of these books where it's talking about all of this joy and bliss and you just have to let it go. It's like, but when you go through really hard things in life, like abuse, like you can't just let it go. It has affected every part of your being, but you have to make the decision to detach yourself from those things and not to understand
Hmm.
why anymore. And, not
Hmm.
to let it
Sometimes it just happens.
yeah, not to let it affect you physically and mentally and everything. And that takes a lot of
It can take a long time to get there, though. Yeah.
long time, but you have to do the work.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of my work with that in therapy, but also this journey has helped me heal a lot.
I agree. I agree
So, yeah.
wholeheartedly.
Um, yeah, oh my gosh, and I hope others can relate. But if you think and stick with, "This happened to me, how awful. I can't do this because this thing happened to me, and I don't want to do this because this thing happened to me." That's kinda like cyclic thinking, right?
Hmm.
You're getting yourself trapped in this depression or anxiety or negative thoughts about this thing about yourself, and you're
Hmm.
not trying to step out of it.
Sometimes you need help. You need help to do that. Like sometimes
And
it's
that's part of
not,
the work.
yes, yes. Sometimes it's not possible to do it on your own, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a weak person to need a hand to pull you up out of it.
No, and in a lot of ways, I think we all have somebody that helped at least a little bit.
Yeah,
I can't tell you one
multiple.
person who's done it on their own. Like,
Yeah,
you need
yeah.
someone that can help you change your mindset, like, think about something that happened in a different way. Ask you a question you never thought about asking yourself. I mean, it's true, and
Hmm.
that's where, a really good therapist can make a huge difference. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a therapist, it could be a friend. You just have to be careful with that.
Hmm.
But, just to kinda wrap up this part of our topic, all of our senses, we're alwa are inputting energy into our body or recycling it in some way, right? Everything we're doing. So when I think of an all senses diet's not just food and drink. Food and drink and nutrition and hydrating with water, all of those things are huge and important to the functionality of all the things mind, body, right? But sleep matters, movement, getting yourself moving, even if it's a little bit, even if it's just lifting your arms above your head or, thinking about ways movement can be a part of your life. And, working with children with disabilities throughout my lifetime, also looking at like those who can't move on their own, how can we bring movement into their life?
Mm.
Also, I think it's so important, right? And
It
that
is.
could mean, like and I've seen some really cool things lately, like having a child stand on the skateboard in an apparatus that this person pushes for them to get some wind in their face, and they need assistance, but they're doing it, and they're riding the skateboard, but they are fully held by the mechanics this man built around them,
Wow.
and things like that, getting movement in your life. Visual media, social media, all the socials, right? Everything we're taking in through our eyes, this is diet for our brain. Start cutting some of that stuff out. Like I remember talking to one of my close friends and, she was really struggling with self-esteem and body image, which looking at that and saying, what am I bringing into my mind? Am I scrolling through Instagram and just looking at all of these people in amazing shape working out, and I know that I can only work out once in a while because my schedule's busy right now and I hate how my body looks?
Mm.
Like, you're that's evoking these negative thoughts about yourself. Get rid of it. If it's not helping you, get rid of it. That's not motivating you. That's shaming you.
Hmm.
You're shaming yourself. So start following other things that bring you joy and make you laugh or smile or inspire you to want to do more better things.
I love that.
And I think that, yeah, and that kind of goes into that sanitization that we've talked about before, like sanitizing your environment. I know you'll get into that next with prepping your space a little bit, but that includes these kinds of things. If you're bringing these things on that are bringing shame on yourself, then you shouldn't be following it. I don't
Hmm.
care if it's your friend, family member, social media person, I don't care,
Yeah.
right? You don't need to follow it.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's, of course, auditory. If you're living in a city or a super busy environment, like making sure you're finding ways to have some quiet. And quiet to one person is not the same quiet to another. Quiet doesn't have to be silent. Some people cannot handle or even want to be in complete
Hmm.
silence, especially with sleep or things like that. And that's okay. But find ways or sounds that are more soothing to you that you can bring into your environment to escape from the chaotic environment
Exactly.
around
It's
you.
so important to disconnect a little.
Yeah. Smells, air quality, be around nature, be around plants. You don't have to be a plant mom or a plant dad or a plant whoever. You don't. Like if you want to, go for it. I certainly try, but it's not easy. But just take a walk. Take a walk.
Hmm.
Air quality is important. That's something I think about more and more these days. And smells, like I said, so like aromatherapy, burn incense, candles, find scents that just light you up inside and use those.
Hmm.
Then there's also, and I'm going through all the senses right now, like touch. Are you overstimulated? I feel like most of you are like, hell yeah. Oh my God.
Especially if you're a parent.
Like, it's tough. Are you overstimulated? Are you understimulated? Are you
Mm.
spending all of your free time sitting on the couch watching TV? That could be overstimulated too, but to me that's understimulating yourself with the nutrition of life. Like you
Mhm.
feel lethargic, you feel out of sorts, I say you, but I'm just basing this off my own experience with this, but if I enjoy that sometimes, but if I'm doing that a lot, I feel a lot more sluggish. I feel a
Mhm.
lot more like I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So looking at that and bringing, things into your
Yeah.
your world that you can either over or understimulate yourself from where you're at, whatever you need.
Mhm.
Uh, your mind bringing in creativity, problem solving, you could Sudoku, crosswords, games, things that you can do that stimulate your mind.
Yeah. Art.
Um,
Getting
art,
yeah.
yeah, with their creativity, art, crafts, music, anything that flexes your creative mind.
Mhm.
Regulating your emotions, learning to do that and starting to understand, I feel this way and why. Kind self-talk, working on that, alignment with your physical actions. Finding your jam. Like, what's your jam? My jam is, when I mean jam, I mean like what activity just puts you in a good place. My jam could be listening to music. My jam could be crafting. And crafting for me means a lot of things. I don't like sitting down and doing the same thing. I can't just be like, oh, I'm going to learn knitting and I'm going to sit down and I'm always going to knit. I'm going to sit down and I got to try something new. That's why I like to create things that I've never really made before. Things, mostly hanging things because I like them, like um, wind chimes and sun catchers and things like that. But I don't limit myself at all. So,
Mhm.
finding your jam, something that you like doing that you can just insert into your life when you have that moment to be like, I really shouldn't be sitting in front of the TV right now. Let me go do this. And having those ideas already in your mind. And you can find those by journaling, by writing things down in your phone as you think of them, like, I want to try this sometime, stuff like that. Becoming an expert time manipulator.
Mm.
I'll talk more about this in another episode because I could go pretty deep here, but
Yeah.
really working on slowing time down. When you find things that you really enjoy and really like, you right now, if you say, oh, but when I do this one thing, time flies by and then it's like midnight and
Mm.
then I'm like, oh, I got to get up in the morning and I really enjoyed this. Well, I feel like it's because we don't do it enough.
Mhm.
When you do those things more and more, it really, really harnesses that time and it can feel like it's slowed down. but it takes a lot of practice to be a time manipulator. But thinking about how you can start doing that, feel less like time has been wasted and more of time has been harnessed, you know?
I love that. I can't wait to talk about that more.
Yeah. So, goals and inspiration, setting those goals for yourself, writing them down somewhere, keeping them somewhere, whether it's picture form or writing them. Um, and then my last couple quotes here are these quotes I actually have written down and posted in my bedroom by my mirror.
I
I
do that
have to
too.
see it every single day. I've
Yeah.
had this for a few years now, and this all started with my complete like how do I put it? Like, I had a hard time getting over my last relationship and moving on with my life. I was very
Hmm.
depressed at first. It was really difficult. It's hard for me to open up and to truly like love someone. So to have finally done that and it end was hard for me to deal with. So these
Hmm.
quotes specifically have helped me and I needed them, but I'm
Hmm.
starting to like not need them, which is great. But one of them is today I will not stress over things I can't control. This also helped
Wow.
me in work.
Yep.
Yeah, it's helped me with my work because,
Me too.
you know, I've definitely worked in some pretty overstimulating settings in a institution for mental health, working with children, working with disabilities. It can be a lot. So that helped me detach myself from the things that I cannot change or control, right?
Hmm. That's all you can do.
Something new to fall into, and it'll be a better one. Brownie points for anyone who knows where this came from. It's from a song. And this song I heard once when I went to a yoga class years ago. And it just this one quote, when I just briefly heard it, I was like, oh man, I got to look up this song because this one is really powerful to me. And this one helped me mostly with that getting through my breakup.
Mm.
And so something new to fall into, and it'll be a better one. And then my last one, lots of quotes today. Fear, feel the fear and take action anyway. I once heard this years ago on a TED Talk, but
Mm.
a lot of people have used this quote. If you search this quote, you'll find it in a lot of different lectures and talks and things like that. But I love this quote because I fear so much in life, and mostly because my upbringing, being in a family of police officers and military and things like that, I was fearful of everything, especially being the only girl. Like I was thought my life was in danger at all times. But then also I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of undiagnosed things when I was younger, and worse as I got older, and eventually was diagnosed with clinical anxiety. So for that, that helped me take a deep breath and jump in and just do it.
Hmm. You have to just do it sometimes,
Yeah.
even if
So
you're shaking. Really.
I'll get off my soapbox now, and I
Great
will.
box.
uh, and I will let Kate talk a little bit about prepping your space and protection and sanitizing your space and what that means and looks like. So it's all for you.
No, I think that was really important because setting intention is so vital to making small change or big change in your life, just like protection, because isn't protection just an intention that you're going to double down on your boundaries and you're not going to
Yeah.
accept certain behaviors or, whatever the case may be. So I think it's super important. And I wanted to kind of just say something real quick that when we talk about, intention and more positivity, by no means are either of us, because I feel like it could get twisted. So I'm just going to say it. This is protection. Um, by no means are we trying to spiritually bypass the emotions that may be considered more negative by some. And when I say that, I mean anger, grief, depression, sadness. None of those are negative. They are what makes us human, and we are all meant to feel the full spectrum of human emotion. So when Katie talked about work, we also mean that you acknowledge those things. You, like she said, you can't stay there. You can, it just won't be a happy existence that you have. you can't stay there, but you do need to feel them because that is also part of the healing. To acknowledge some of that, what quote unquote shadow, but honestly, it just makes us human. And I think those emotions serve us because they can protect us from things that would do us harm or others harm. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. You
Yeah.
know that, and just now, of course, I have to say something.
Okay.
Well, if you think about feelings like anger, or even guilt, or loss, for
Hmm.
looking at loss, grief. A lot of these so-called negative feelings or bad feelings, I hate that, good, bad, but
Hmm.
negative or bad feelings ultimately can lead to good feelings.
Hmm.
So if you're angry and you work through something or get over that anger, you feel enjoyment, bliss, peace, positive, good type
Hmm.
feelings. And you have to go through it to get there.
Hmm.
And then thinking about these negative or bad feelings. Also, some people intentionally feel these things to access the pain, to
Yes.
access the guilt, the anger,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So I hate that it has to be categorized into good and bad or positive and negative. It's just the easy way to talk about it.
Hmm.
But I really am grateful you brought that point up because all of these feelings are purposeful,
Yes, they are.
are meaningful. So,
Hmm. And they're justified, especially if you've had trauma, if you've had something enacted against you that just should never have happened, but it did. So
yeah.
yeah, no, that was good. Um, but we're going to go into prepping your space. So we kind of talked about this last time, or actually in the first episode, where I talked a little bit about protection that I have in my physical space. Um, for me, protection is essentially establishing barriers and boundaries in terms of who or what, quote unquote, you will allow in your physical space or your energy field. So yes, you do get to have a say. Now that say may not come until maybe you're a little bit older, but I think we all need to have sovereignty over our own personhoods and our own energies, and sometimes when we're young, those boundaries are not respected. And so I'm so sorry if that has happened to you. I know it's happened to me in the past, but there comes a time in life where we all have a choice to then move forward differently and um, really establish what we will or we won't allow in our home, our office, our vehicle, our energy field, our relationships, any of that kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted to just add some like quick tips, things that might help you. You can, as far as around your actual physical body and your physical energy field or your aura, you can imagine white light or any color light that you desire to be around you and protect you and deflect. I started off doing more white light, and now honestly, I've kind of moved into darkness and void. It is a kind of like a shield, or maybe even like a cloak. Cloaking kind of can hide you. I feel that that's very useful depending on who or what you're dealing with. You can imagine an impenetrable bubble. You could even use and visualize protection sigils or symbols. That's why people get them tattooed on their bodies. I know someone who's really into sigils, and her tattoos are gorgeous and they protect her. Katie had mentioned aroma or scent. You can wear a scent that reminds you to protect. There are plants we kind of talked about in the Halloween episode, our second episode, that were thought to be having protective properties to them. Um, Katie even mentioned, I think in the first episode, you could wear jewelry, a necklace that you've laid the intention to protect yourself, and it could be your favorite necklace. It could be a necklace that someone gifted to you. It could just be a necklace you really, really liked and you bought it for yourself. Rings, earrings. And then there's what's called veiling. So you can, some people in some cultures actually do veil, but as simple as putting on a cap, you can put on a hat And if you feel like, I sometimes do that if it's my energy that I feel is kind of wonky, I'll put on a cap because I don't want to be throwing that stuff out there to other people. And it helps me to remember, all right, just like breathe. You don't need to like go there in public at least. Like if you need to have a moment, you can go home, but like you are safe. And I don't want to be spreading my negative stuff that I experience sometimes, like everyone else around. Another thing that personally I do, I love lavender. Lavender is one of my favorite plants and scents. Lavender, oddly enough, does, when we talk about metaphysical properties of the plant, does have psychic protection properties.
I didn't
So,
know that. Girl, I have
yes.
everything lavender.
Go
I am
figure,
that
me too.
girl. If
Yeah.
you don't like the scent of lavender, you cannot date me.
Yeah.
I'm
Get
sorry.
out. Get
It's not
out.
gonna work out.
Me neither. I have soap and I have my
Yeah,
lotion and I have perfume that
literally
has
everything.
lavender. Literally,
Yeah.
yes. So when I'm washing, so like if I take a shower, and then I moisturize, I imagine it like a protective barrier on my skin. And I kind of have my own little
Mm.
mantra that I say in the morning that, nothing else can ever cross this barrier. This provides protection to me. I'm gonna have a good day. You know what I mean? Lavender is also very calming. So if you spray a lavender spray on your pillow, it may help you go to sleep, and we can talk about maybe some essential oils in the future. But those are just some
Mm.
things that I've used or heard other people really like to use in their day-to-day practice. And you can even start out, like Katie said, with the intention. You can write down the boundaries that you want to have. Maybe you're seeing someone who normally kind of triggers you, gets under your skin. Maybe you just don't have a very positive relationship with this person. You can write down the intentions that you want to have of how that interaction is going to go. And it may not be perfect, but maybe because you're just being cognizant and like aware of it, you may approach the situation a little differently. Or you may understand that like this person might just want to get a reaction out of you. And so it can be kind of interesting to not give that to them and to know like you got some tools in your toolbox, especially if it's grounding, anything like that, which we can talk about in the future as well.
I wanted to add too, when
Yeah.
you were talking about scents, so something I have done, and not frequently, but something I've done, is when my grandmother passed away, I got some of her things. One of the things I have is her perfume bottle,
Hmm.
and she always wore the same perfume, but I don't wear it. And you don't have to wear it, but every once in a while I'll smell it, not just for nostalgia, but for the purpose of setting intention of protection, or if I know like I need guidance. She was really Catholic, but I would use that to help guide me in a direction of faith of some kind, faith of
Hmm.
love, I guess.
Yeah.
And what reminds me of my grandfather is tobacco pipe. I know it's crazy. I don't smoke a tobacco pipe, but when I smell it, it gives me a sense of comfort.
Hmm.
And I think that's important to note too, things that are not just meaningful because they're meaningful, but be meaningful to you because it signifies a time where you were safe and protected.
Super important. That's a good hack, essentially, right? Because like a
Yeah.
lot of this is rooted in our psychology, and I feel like a lot of things within the metaphysical sphere, we just don't have the tools like we talked about to fully explain it. So it's interesting. Um, and then as far as sanitizing your space, it does not have to be a production unless you like to be a little dramatic, then go off. But sanitizing your space can literally be like you're cleaning it. Lemon is a scent that a lot of us associate with cleaners. As long as you don't have sensitivity to it, you could literally use a lemon scented soap and scrub your home,
Mm.
vacuum your carpets, spray a lemon spray. Lavender, again, you can use lavender soap. You can use any
I
types of
like
those things.
grapefruit.
If you like grapefruit, use grapefruit. Use
I do.
whatever you associate with safety, security, cleanliness. If you want to get a little magical, you can use moon water. You can use
Mm.
sprays that you can buy. I have some sprays that are like intention laid, magical, quote unquote. And I truly set the intention and I spray, and like the smell of it reminds me of the intention that I just set. Um,
Sorry, a good alternative to lavender if you're not a lavender person, because I do know people who cannot, is rosemary. Very
Mm-hmm.
similar properties. The smell is
Yes.
different, but rosemary you can use, I
Yeah.
think, in similar ways as lavender. So just quick
Yes, you
note.
can. And we will, I was going to mention that when we talk a little bit about the big thing that I feel like when people think about cleansing the space is smoke cleansing, right? We think about the incense or, sage or whatever. So I really wanted to touch on that since that seems to be the thing that people have a lot of questions about. And I kind of wanted to give a little bit of background about it. So, and we wanted to talk about being culturally sensitive because that's very important to both of us. So, one of the earliest written records of smoke cleansing comes from the Vedas, ancient Hindu. So, that is an ancient Hindu text written in Sanskrit detailing its use of incense as a healing tool to support recovery from illness, and equally important to create a clean, peaceful, nurturing space in which to heal. And there have been studies, I believe it was with, let me see, I think it was with maybe a combination from Indian culture, so literally India. Yes, it was the Havan Samagri. I probably butchered the saying of that. And normally, so that is an incense that's usually loose leaf, and it can be made up of rose petals, sandalwood powder, agar, lotus seeds, turmeric, mango wood, among other things, and they burned it loose leaf in a bowl. And actually, there was research conducted to show that it significantly reduced bacteria in the air. So you actually
Mm.
literally are sanitizing the air with some of these practices.
Air
Um,
quality.
yeah, which Katie touched on a couple minutes ago, so it all kind of ties
Huh.
together. But
Unintentionally. That's awesome.
unintentionally, and that's the power of intention, right? However, smoke cleansing and cleansing in general has been present from the beginning of time in historic texts and biblical texts, other religious texts. They did
Mhm.
do incense, they did do burnings and offerings to Yahweh, to God, whomever. So I think that it has been around for a long time, but I really wanted to touch on the term smudging because that is loaded, and I feel like we got to just put it out there. So remain open minded. But the term smudging is now more closely related to the smoke cleansing ceremonial practices of First Nation peoples. So when we talk about smudging, if you hear smudging, a smudging kit, what you're doing technically isn't really considered smudging. And I think it's very important to be respectful of the cultural practices of others and understand that some, if you are invited to learn, great. But just know some practices are closed. I would consider this a closed practice unless you are invited. Sometimes that's just the way that it is. It's closed for a reason, and it's something that we kind of have to accept. But
You
if you
can't
are
sit with us.
invited, I mean,
Just kidding.
truly.
I'm not in this group. I can't say.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But truly, I mean, I think we do have to have a certain level of respect for other people's practices and
Mhm.
understand that, like, there's a lot of cultural meanings behind them. And also, too, when we talk about using white sage, um, white sage is essentially sacred to First Nation peoples and other indigenous groups, and it's over harvested, period, and it's not done ethically. So just be sure if you do decide to buy white sage, where you're getting it from is an ethical supplier. And just know, kind of like Katie gave you an alternative to lavender, there are other alternatives to sage, some of which you can just grow yourself, which I think is even better because you're
Mm.
putting your work, your energy into this herb that you will use then to clear your space. So it's like full circle. Some of the easily grown stuff is common garden sage, grape sage, Greek sage. I love a clary sage. I love clary sage oil. I diffuse it in my diffuser. It is great for women who have painful periods or PMS, PMDD. It aids, it doesn't cure. Just putting that disclaimer. And those are just a few. So just know that there are way other, like so many other options that you can use. It isn't just white sage that you have to use. And lastly, on this topic, and we're going to talk about this more in depth too another time. I think a great way, if you want to use smoke, right? If you want to use smoke cleansing, a great way to make your space more personal and it is more powerful is if you're able to delving into your ancestry, delving into your ancestors and researching what they might have used in their practices if you are among the practicing community, what plants were indigenous to their region, and go from there. And just to name a few, the Romans used cinnamon for funerals and rosemary for healing. In China, incense was made from the barks of magnolia, peony, cypress, agarwood, sandalwood, and mugwort. Moxibustion, if you're interested in acupuncture, which we can also talk about too at another time. Egypt, they used an incense mixture called kefi, which was ground myrrh,
Mhm.
frankincense, calamus root, juniper berries, spikenard, and cinnamon. Hebrew culture, there was an incense mixture of storax, onycha, galbanum, and frankincense. If you grew up Christian or know the tradition of Christmas, frankincense and myrrh were brought to baby Jesus by the three wise men. Um, and then European background, seining, and it is an age-old Celtic practice. They could use fire and water, and they use plants as well to guard, heal a person, animal, place, object, or an entire community. We talked about Samhain, so they would do these huge bonfires. They would burn those plants that they chose, and people would jump through the fire as a way to purify, which is beautiful. They would burn juniper, rowan, or elder as well. Smoke cleansing was also used during the bubonic plague throughout Europe. Again, so there is research out there to say that using smoke definitely clears a space of bacteria. While the bubonic plague was very, very serious and more than smoke was needed to, cure people. But French doctors used rosemary and thyme in sick rooms. So that was a thing, and they wore the huge doctor masks. And it's just a very interesting practice, and it's just very important to be cognizant of what we're using and to be respectful of other cultures. And I think if you kind of do your research, you just can't really go wrong. So that's what I have to say about
Wow.
that.
Wow. I learned a lot today. I
I
love
learned a lot
this.
today. Yeah.
If there's any takeaway, the takeaway is to be intentional about what you're using. So often we get stuck in these fads of like, oh, crystals
Hmm.
are popular and they're so pretty. The next to the crystals at the crystal shop, you see um, all kinds of scents and burning things, and you just start grabbing what's there and
Hmm.
not understanding really why it's used, but picking them only because you like it is not always necessarily the best or only thing to do.
Hmm.
So this kind of gives you beginner witch information to like go in there and be like, I heard on Kate and Katie's podcast that this was used, and I'm going to research it. Always do your research. Don't just listen to what people tell you. This culture is
Yes.
so stuck on, oh, I read this on Facebook, or this was said on the news, and like that's
Hmm.
like
Therefore, it must
Bible.
be
Like,
true.
no, yeah, and
Hmm.
even for us, like we do our research and we really try hard to use research that is reputable and makes sense and is something that people can go to. We try to talk and bring on resources of people who have a lot of experience and education in what they're doing and what they're saying, and research behind it. So, we hope that when you get things from us that like this isn't based off of our opinion, like this is based off of our things we've learned through our research and our own studies to get here.
Hmm.
So hopefully this can at least encourage you to look things up before, you know and Wikipedia is not necessarily always correct. So making sure you're looking
Hmm.
at your reputable sources.
Hmm.
But we have a lot more to talk about in energy. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we will do a part 2 where we'll talk a
Yes.
little bit more. And we'll talk about the different types of energy, who provides energy work, what kind of energy healing is out there, what does it mean, what does it address, what's used during those practices. um, yeah, so we have quite a little bit more to go. So I think we should
There's always
do
more to
part 2.
go. Always the way to go.
Yeah. This
Exactly.
is
I'm
just an
excited.
intro. Holy moly.
Hmm. We set the space. We set the intention, didn't we?
All right. Well, I think then we'll come to a close here and then we'll start a part two.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you learned as much as we did when we were doing our research previous and prior to today. But join us on part two. I am Kate,
And I'm Katie.
and this is us signing off from Soul Wilds. See you next episode.